Good morning, y'all. Today I'm fixing to merge a video about how the DNA frequency links us to AI, and for y'all people in Australia, Pine Gap, and how Pine Gap Communications tracks targets through fiber optics in a base in Nevada. Also, it's going to talk about how TAMI thought and mind interface program was, I think, I forgot what year. Anyway, it's very interesting. It's going to cover a bunch of topics, including DNA frequency being tracked, and how computers. Anyway, the further you go to the end, the better it gets. And I'm not just saying that to get you to watch the video, but it starts off with some interest. Any target will find it interesting. Just a little history about Pine Gap, how it was all, and then some cover-ups of the space program being a cover-up of how to track people and linking people's DNA to stuff. Anyway, I hope y'all find it good information. I've been very weak. I'm weak right now, forcing myself to do this video. My whole body's vibrating with electricity. Matter of fact, I feel so weak and vibrated, and just, I feel like I'm being cooked from the inside out right now. So I'm just gonna get this video rolling and for y'all, and I'm gonna read one Bible verse, and then I'm gonna get the video rolling. I'm sorry, I'm getting hit pretty hard today, but I figured y'all would like this information. So, okay, I'm gonna say Psalms 101 verse 4 and 5, and then I'm gonna merge the video and upload it. Okay, here starting in verse 4, 101 Psalm 101 verse 4. I hate what faithless people do. I will have no part in it. The perverse of heart shall be far from me. I will have nothing to do with what is evil. Whoever slanders their neighbor in secret, I will put to silence. Whoever has haughty eyes and a proud heart, I will not tolerate. All right, pray for me. Like I said, I am getting fried today. So anyway, just pray God give me the energy to, persevere like I always do. I will keep doing videos no matter what. It just sometimes it's nice to have energy, it gets old. Anyway, God bless all target individuals. I hope you can have the best weekend you can have, going through this. All right, here's the video.
The base is linked to huge satellites that suck up vast amounts of digital data from electronic sources, including mobile phones, email accounts, and internet connections. Pine Gap looks north and west. The NSA's Menwith Hill base in the UK looks south and east, so that together most of the Earth's landmass is covered. Analysts at Pine Gap can find a target by seeking the signals and location of their communications, like mobile phones, and then firing that information via optical cables to military centres in the US. From there, it can be sent to commanders in the battlefield or to the pilots of the US's expanding fleet of lethal unmanned drones based in Nevada.
One of the capabilities was to intercept microwave transmissions.
See, I was told that it was a space research facility, joint facilities.
Well, that was the cover.
That's what all Australians were told.
That was the cover for it at the time. At the time, it was considered a very sensitive operation. The main reason for the secrecy was to keep the Australian and the American public ignorant, particularly the Australian public, because Australians are perceived by the Americans to be a little odd about some of these things. They sometimes don't appreciate the great threat that the Soviet Union and China and communism posed to the United States and the rest of the free world, including Australia. So we have to, like a big brother to a little brother, so by nobody knowing what's going on in Australia, and of course we're not going to say anything.
So it was a conspiracy to allow unhindered the gathering of intelligence and military secrets on Australian soil.
So just put up a cover story and say it's a space project of some sort. Everybody knows that Australia was involved in our manned orbiting of the Earth and the moon launches and all that, and the whole NASA thing. It's a good, has a very good position, geographically speaking, for this.
You were telling a lie.
Well, yes, that's what cover is.
technology called Biocoded directed energy. And that's a top secret thing that was developed. And what it is they get your DNA. Once they have your DNA, they take the DNA and they put your DNA code in a supercomputer. And in that supercomputer, they run algorithms that biocode electromagnetic transmissions so they bioresonate with your body. Once they've done that, they can transmit that from satellites or cell towers or aircraft or any number of ways, and that signal will only affect you and nobody else. In other words, everybody standing next to you is not going to hear the content because their receiver is not tuned to that bioresonance.
There's a bioresonance to every individual, just like our fingerprint. Every person has an individual DNA, a different bioresonance.
A complete DNA profile is obtained from the target, from the individual, the targeted individual. And then this information, the DNA of the individual, is used to determine the resonant frequency of the DNA itself. The resonant frequency is then used to fine-tune the technology, the radio frequency signals, the microwave auditory effect, and all of the other aspects of the technology to tune it perfectly to the resonant frequency of the targeted individual's DNA. And they can read your thoughts verbatim as they occur within your own mind. This technology can also tap into the optical nerve of the target and the auditory system of the target, so that those monitoring the target can see what the target is seeing and hear what the target is hearing.
The true control grid is this technology, voice-to-skull, hive mind, behavior manipulation technology, and it can all be done remotely. It can be done simply by targeting you with the frequency, locking into the resonant frequency of your DNA and your mind, and in that manner completely track and trace and control you 24 hours a day. Manipulate the emotions and the behavior and the thoughts of everybody in the United States of America, and it can all be done remotely.
Just like our fingerprint, every person has an individual DNA, a different bioresonance.
According to the CIA's charter, agents cannot engage in secret operations of any kind within the countries of the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand without the explicit prior approval of the host government. In Australia in 1972, a Labour government was elected for the first time in 23 years. Most disturbing to Washington, however, was the withdrawal of Australian troops from Vietnam, the support of Palestinian rights, and the proposal of an Indian Ocean zone of peace.
The military industry is the core of the existing manufacturing industry in the U.S.
Worst of all, Whitlam hinted that he might shut down a number of American military bases, including Pine Gap. When CIA Director William Colby petitioned his counterpart at MI6, Sir Maurice Oldfield, for help, he stressed that Australia was traditionally Britain's domain, and that if Pine Gap were closed, the alliance would be blinded strategically.
1976, the system Temi was born, followed by Satan.
Unbeknownst to Australia's new Prime Minister, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation had not only been working closely with the CIA, they had been illegally passing on dossiers concerning every member of the Labour Party, as well as union leaders, peace activists, and other Australian citizens. A slush fund was set up to provide money to both opposition parties via the Nugenhand Bank, a CIA front company. This was followed up by a promise to the main opposition Liberal Party of unlimited funds. In addition to the slush fund, the CIA created a series of forged documents implicating high-ranking members of the Labour Party in a succession of scandals. No hard evidence was ever produced to substantiate the allegations, but a complicit Australian media, spearheaded by a young Rupert Murdoch, fanned the flames of discontent.
I think they're going to fail.
In 1947 and 1949, we passed the National Security Act and the CIA Act, and those two acts in combination allowed money to be clawed out of the federal government and federal budget and spent in non-transparent ways. So we created a secret way of funding very big projects through through the governmental mechanism. It all comes back to a point after World War II where literally the government lost control of the technology. We had the most powerful, secretive, black technology in the world, including some that we brought over from the Nazis.
1976, the system TAMI was born, followed by Satan. This biocommunications weapon came over with the Nazi scientists in 1945. President Truman signs the National Security Act of 1947 to create the CIA. The CIA begins a long streak of crimes against citizens of the world, and they continue the horrific Nazi agenda of world domination, all based on this new biofield modulation discovery.
And a lot of what we're dealing with goes back to the fact that we've had since then 50 to 60 years of incredible non-transparent governmental flows going into basically corporate-controlled technology that many of us don't understand.
Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla. All three have been on a roll since mid-June.
New concerns tonight about the social media giants' role in fake news and elections.
These firms have too much power, our economy, and democracy.
Everything they're doing online is being watched, is being tracked. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded.
Their personal data, which is like gold.
We have this trusted.
It all comes back to a point after World War II where literally the government lost control of the technology. We had the most powerful, secretive, black technology in the world, including some that we brought over from the Nazis.
Satan's silent assassinations through adaptive neural networks, and these are neural weapons we've been using for a long time.
1976, the system TAMI was born, followed by Satan.
It's just simply incompatible with life.
The entire human race can be controlled through the use of electromagnetic influence piggybacked on television and radio networks or other technological means. Virtually any mental state can be artificially injected into a human brain from an exterior source. The most frightening thing is that the means for doing this already exists in a fully operational form on a worldwide basis. Quote, "The power levels for these amplitudes are similar to those associated with the signals generated globally by radio and communication system. Within the last 2 decades, a potential has emerged which was improbable, but which is now feasible. This potential is the technical capability to influence directly the major portion of the approximately 6 billion brains of the human species by generating neural information within a physical medium within which all members of the species are immersed." Unquote.
Where are these thoughts coming from?
Dr. Persinger published the paper On the Possibility of Directly Accessing Every Human Brain by Electromagnetic Induction of Fundamental Algorithms, 1995. Quote, "A process which is coupled to the narrow band of brain temperature could allow all normal human brains to be affected by a subharmonic whose frequency range at 10 Hz would vary only by 0.1 Hz. Random variations of noise within the matrices could potentially differentiate between individual brains. In other words, individuals could be identified by the specific characteristics of their brain output." He goes on further. Identification of these sequences could also allow direct access to the most complex neurocognitive processes associated with the self, human consciousness, and the aggregate of experimental representations, in other words, episodic memory, that define the individual within the brain. In other words, a person's memory, consciousness, and sense of self can be fully accessed and modified by electromagnetic means. Especially a person's personality can be completely shaped, much like the research of Dr. Ewan Cameron, who sought to do so by more primitive means. The entire human race can be controlled. The entire human race.
Psychotronics is the, let me pick these words very carefully, is the long-range modification or manipulation of behavior by electronic, specifically radio means. In other words, you use electromagnetic energy, radio transmissions, to affect human behavior at a distance. In other words, what you're doing is that you are merging radio engineering and parapsychology. Let me summarize what they can do and then in more detail about one or two of these facets. One, they can manipulate behavior at a distance. For example, they could create a riot, which you couldn't stop, in this auditorium, right out of that transmitter. What they would do specifically is that the name of the transmitter is not the one I know. I know it as the Gomel transmitter. He called it the woodpecker signal. But what they do, they broadcast the signal to create a riot. You broadcast 11 hertz, 11 cycles per second, beamed into this room. And it would, without you knowing, you would start to get uncomfortable, then upset, and then I presume start getting a little active, like throwing the plants around or breaking up chairs, things like that. You use specific, what are called radio frequency windows. 11 hertz will create that kind of behavior. Other frequencies, other windows will create other kinds of behavior. You can create a passive behavior. You can make people go to sleep. You can create narcotic effects. It has been used actually as an antidote, as a cure for narcotic addiction. You can make people alert. You can make them misconstrue, misunderstand things. Each has a specific, very precise frequency. We know what these frequencies are. We know the behavior modification that can be brought about.